All right, what is going on, everyone? My name is Mike. I'm the owner of Formal Fitness Training. This is the first ever Four Corner podcast. If you're familiar with some of my other works, I do Coffee with a Trainer podcast, which is normally one person on the call with me. But today I pulled some of my awesome friends here and we decided to do a podcast called the Four Corner Podcast. We're going to be covering a lot about strength training, injury prevention, and a little bit of fat loss mixed in as well. The sad fact of what's going on right now is 42% of people during the past 2 years have gained weight since COVID started, on average of 29 pounds. And the sad part about that is 77% of the people that are being hospitalized are overweight or obese. So we're going to talk about the cornerstone of how to help people lose weight and build muscle, which are two of the biggest things people are after right now. Building muscle will help you lose weight and burn fat. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. And we're here to help you guys. And I'm going to shoot it over to Danielle, and we're going to do a quick introduction of everybody so you guys can get to know them.
Hello, I go by Dani for most people, but I'm very passionate about health and fitness, and I've been doing this for over 15 years. I created kind of my own brand called Be Dani Fit, and that developed in a way because people more or less wanted to mirror my lifestyle. And that's pretty much how I came up with it, is like being Dani Fit is a certain type of not only lifestyle, but it's a mindset. And so it's teaching clients and teaching people to not only you need to have the right mindset, but the support and everything else going on in your life to create that overall health and wellness to achieve your goals. Anything else?
That's perfect.
All right.
Shoot it on over to Adam.
Hey guys, my name is Dr. Adam. I am a certified sports chiropractor. I have an office in Malvern, which is kind of outside of Westchester. My focus with patients is generally movement-based disorders, faulty movement patterns, compensation. So not generally like a typical chiropractor. I look at a lot of joint dysfunction and muscular tightness, and so that's kind of my approach with my patients.
Very cool. Go ahead, Ben.
How's it going, everyone? Ben Feynman. I work in corporate fitness as well as managing my own company called Intuitive Roots. The pillars of that are build the body, grow the mind, pursue your passions. So I kind of look at things from a kind of holistic approach. So I help people with fitness training, both in person and virtually, as well as some nutrition coaching. And then I'm just a huge advocate of just active lifestyle and the outdoors. I'm a big outdoor enthusiast. A lot of the people I work with are kind of coming from the same mindset. They're just trying to be healthier, more active. They want longevity so they can continue to do their favorite activities, well into their later years. So I focus a lot on that, do a lot of just strength training, nutrition work, and a lot of mobility training just to help equip people for whatever their activities and their lifestyles are. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Definitely more of a functional approach with strength training and a lot of the other things I do. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to jump on with me today. The purpose of this podcast, from my standpoint, is I really want to try and get through to people and encourage people to actually start strength training. We're going to talk about why that's important. We're going to have Adam talk about some of the correctives and reasons people aren't moving well, and maybe that's preventing them from going to the gym. And we're just going to kind of go down that path and just kind of see where we go, because I feel like it's so important for people to add strength training into their life and understand why it's important and whether or not you can do it if you have injuries or problems from the past. So we're just going to start off with why strength training is so important. I'll let Ben answer that, and then Danielle, you can kind of chime in as well.
Oh man, where do I start? So many benefits. I would say I'll start it by saying I can't really think of anything where being strong would be a negative. I think everyone can improve whatever they're doing from being strong. I think obviously you can make the argument, yeah, maybe for certain sports or activities, carrying too much mass could be a hindrance. But as far as just being strong and possessing strength, there's really, I don't see many disadvantages to it. So I really think that strength is the precursor to a lot of things, whether you're an athlete or just kind of general population, just looking to be healthy and, maintain healthy body weight and, just live a healthy lifestyle. So really, even if you're an athlete and you're more of like a cardio or endurance based athlete, you should still be doing some kind of strength training in your program. And really the reason for this is strength is just going to kind of, like I said before, be the precursor for a lot of other activities. If you don't possess strength, you're not going to be as good of a runner or swimmer or whatever other athletic endeavors you're trying to kind of pursue. So just from a functional standpoint, possessing strength is just going to, allow all of your joints and muscle tissue to function properly. It's going to help ensure that your bone mineral density is where it needs to be. So it's going to, help with injury prevention for your bones, your joints, tendons, ligaments, all of those things. And then from more of, I guess, a physiological perspective, if we look at what strength training can do as far as just helping the body maintain lean mass and burn fat. So I know we're going to get into more of that later, so I won't deep dive huge into that right now, but there's really not a person that I could say that strength training is not going to benefit from them. I think sometimes people get scared because they are intimidated by it, which I know we're going to kind of lead into that topic. But I just think from just the point of general strength, it's something everyone should be doing a little bit of, even if it's minimal, just focusing on the large muscle groups. And then if we look at some of the things that might not necessarily always be as apparent at the surface level, just things like, blood perfusion. When we strength train, we create a lot of intramuscular pressure which also puts pressure on our blood vessels. So sometimes we hit really high blood pressure when we're doing certain lifts and strength training. And that helps actually push blood into capillaries and can, get nutrients to muscles and can help remove waste products. So there's a lot of these secondary benefits that we don't always see at the surface level, but I could go on and on, but strength training is just really something that should be at the heart of everyone's, training program. So I'll let Dani or anyone else who wants to kind of chime in on that, go ahead.
So from even a nutritionist standpoint, when I work with clients, they're here because, they want nutrition, but I cannot produce a program for them until I know what they are, what their exercising looks like and if they're strength training. And so they don't get like why I'm interested in their where their body fat is and where everything is, because that all plays a part of how I'm going to, write out their program and what types of foods they're going to eat. So body fat's a really big thing that I look at when I'm trying to decide, where their nutritional needs are. That's a big key player. Your body burns about 70 calories per pound of muscle. So if someone has more muscle, you're going to be burning more calories at rest. And even if someone comes to me and they said, I don't want to do strength training, or, I look at their age, you lose muscle as you age, just it happens. And typically it's like in the 2 to 3% rate, but some people can be a little less slower, or you can speed that up. So you're having that muscle atrophy as you age. And so there's a lot of factors that even if you don't want to strength train, you're missing out on preserving the muscle. And so a lot of females are, I'm not interested in, I think when you say strength training, they get in their mind that I need to look like a bodybuilder, or, and that just needs to just sit aside, and people need to focus on more of preserving the body that they want. So even if they don't want to make any changes, guess what? If you don't make any changes, or if you don't preserve it, your body is going to change whether you like it or not. And so I look at it as a standpoint of, preserving the muscle and nutritionally wise, like I can't prescribe anything and I can't direct somebody unless we know exactly how much muscle they have in their body, where their body fat is. And so that all really plays a key a role, and that's not forever. So nutrition clients, I have them come back and see me because your body does change as you age. Your body composition does change. So it's not a once and done thing. Your body is always changing. And strength training is just that key point to keep maintain the muscle that you have. And it also plays a key role in where your calories are. And that's why it's ever changing. And that's why nutrition and exercise and fitness is very difficult to grasp, because it's not black and white, it's ever changing.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And something I've been hearing just thrown around constantly since I got into the industry as well. I'm right around there with Danielle and Ben, 15, 16 years in the industry. Everybody comes to us, they say, hey, I want to tone. And, I feel like you really got to get below that surface. You got to say, well, what exactly do you mean by that? And then ask them, like, who is your ideal body type? If you're a guy and you want to look like Vin Diesel or you want to look like Dwayne Johnson, those are two totally different things. You can't tone muscle if you don't really have muscle. Everybody obviously has muscle, but you got to build muscle if you want to achieve that ripped, shredded look. And as Danielle kind of alluded to, that's not as easy as people think it is, especially with women. They think they're going to get big and bulky and crazy shredded, and they're like, oh, I don't want to do this. But that's a whole other conversation. Adam, what Ben said with the whole blood flow and pushing the blood pressure into the capillaries, have you found that's really helpful in your patients when they're recovering, just doing some type of strength training to speed their recovery process?
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to touch on what Danielle and Ben were saying also. So Mike, your first comment was about people being overweight. Whatever percentage you said, it was a pretty significant percentage of people being overweight right now. So I'm assuming that we're talking about the everyday person, right? Not a fitness professional like you guys who understand and value fitness as part of your daily routine. So I'm not sure, are you guys familiar with Wolff's Law and Davy's Law? You guys know what that is?
Davy's Law, yeah.
Yeah. So, for the, let's say the female patient, 50, 55 years and older, they start to go through menopause and they lose the bone density and everything. And so when you strength train, you put stress on the bone, and then you also put stress on the muscle. So if anything were ever to happen, fall, some type of trauma, you're basically priming your body to stay healthy in case an event happens. So on top of just being healthy and strong and everything else, it's also just preventing injuries as well. So I just wanted to touch on that part of the question before. But to answer your question, Mike, so when it comes to recovery and blood flow and strength training, so when you work out, right, you break down the fibers, and then that's kind of like that soreness that we feel afterwards. You definitely want to increase blood flow post recovery. So whether that's by just doing a basic 5 to 10 minute jog, by doing some stretching, hydration, certain supplementation or nutrition. I mean, it's all extremely important. I have a big CrossFit population of patients, so they work out 5 to 6, sometimes 7 days a week, and they're always complaining about being sore. And I think what also people don't realize is how valuable rest is, but that could be a whole nother topic. But getting blood flow, kind of exchanging that oxidation levels is absolutely important. So however you want to do that is fine. I utilize a technique called blood flow restriction training. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that too, but I use that as well to try to basically occlude the arterial flow so that you can increase the venous output to then that also helps with recovery as well. So blood flow is obviously very important for recovery, regardless of strength training or not.
Awesome. I think we covered a lot there. Adam, we're going to stick with you. We're going to talk about where and why you use functional movement screenings when assessing a new client. I know I do TPI screenings. I know Ben does FMS. I think Danielle, you dabble with that a little bit as well. And I know Adam, you do the FMS. So we'll just start off with that question. when and how we use functional movement screenings when assessing a new client to figure out where our starting point is.
So FMS was designed for a basic baseline movement pattern. You know, there's 7 movements, and you grade them based off of their pattern. So the reason, like I think about goals. So each person, each client, each patient has a different goal. So if I get, let's say, a high school athlete that comes in here, and he's a runner, cross country, track and field, and has pain about 3 miles in, we'll do an FMS to kind of assess his gait a little bit. How's his running form? So the FMS was designed purposely to evaluate global dysfunction. There's the SFMA, which is a little bit like next level, which is kind of smaller movements. But we use it as a baseline. So if we have, let's say, preseason, we have a high school or collegiate athlete come in, we do an FMS, we grade them, we then go over their score and what we saw and what we're going to do to fix it. And then we train them or do whatever we need to do to get to the end of the season, hopefully healthy and pain-free and injury-free. And then we redo the FMS to see where they're at and say, all right, well, when you did a squat, you kind of deviated to the right. So that means you have either right glute or tight ankles or weak glute or whatever it may be. And as we work through it, we then show them, hey, after 8 weeks or 10 weeks of training with us and then doing what you're supposed to be doing, look at where you've gone. So I think when you do an FMS, there needs to be an intention and a goal with each thing that you do. Sometimes people will say you shouldn't do an FMS before you train somebody because you don't know exactly how they're going to move, whether you want to do that or not. But I think it goes on to how well you can view that person just by looking at them move. So if you just watch them walk, or if you have them in the gym as a personal trainer and you're just watching them do basic movements, you don't have to necessarily do the FMS. But it is a good tool to have just as a baseline standard before you begin anything.
Danielle, thoughts on that?
I think I mean, he covered everything that I probably would have said and more. But I think key is just being aware that someone like functional movement does look different for each person depending on, their stature, their size, their joint size, their muscle tightness. So in your eyes, you're like, well, no, a squat is done like this. And you don't do like an analysis of really where the person's coming from, maybe their background and, checking out, the tightness of their joints or things like that. They might not be able to achieve a squat how you want them to squat, but making those small adjustments over time to where they can comfortably squat and sit and hold weight where it's not putting extra load on one side of the body than the other, then, that I would say that's a success.
Ben, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, Adam definitely nailed it on the head, as far as just kind of establishing that, when you're doing these screenings, you're really trying to establish a baseline. You're trying to see, how does this individual move? Are there any like really glaring dysfunctions in their movement patterns that, you should probably address immediately? And really, the heart of everything is to try to, one, indicate sources of pain. And then 2, what can we do to kind of, supplement that? Like what can we do to improve your movement so you can move pain-free? I think that's the goal for a lot of people, is just, being able to properly function pain-free so they can do the things they want to do, and they can do the training to supplement the things they want to do without causing any detriment to their body. We all have this kinetic chain of joints that kind of connect us, and all of our joints have specific functions that they should be able to achieve. And to Danielle's point, like, everyone is kind of like working with their own physical structure and their own limitations. But we can do joint analysis. Like, in addition to FMS, I also do FRC stuff. So we kind of really look at joints individually, and we do things like controlled articular rotations to really assess how well someone can move through a certain pattern. Because if someone's shoulder isn't functioning as a shoulder, and they're not able to achieve certain things, then, you know, if we try to maybe do an overhead press and their shoulder flexion can't get, you know, up to a full 90 degrees, you know, there's going to be an issue somewhere. You're going to pay a detriment somewhere else lower in your kinetic chain, like, you know, maybe the lower back. If you're doing a lot of overhead pressing, you don't really have that shoulder flexion to really warrant that. So I think a lot of exercises we do in the gym definitely have prerequisites. And if your joints aren't up to par, then, you know, that's where you need to do correctives. And obviously, you know, Adam can probably further elaborate on this, but yeah, like movement correctives are kind of a way to bridge that gap to getting you to be able to move better, to achieve just better overall function, so you can, you know, do the exercises in your program that are going to help lead you to whatever goal that you might have.
Yeah, I never wanted to take anything away from like FMS or TPI or anything like that. But what I always came back to is, you know, I've been weight training for about 22 years now. And when I go to do legs, it's about a 15-minute warm up before I'm able to squat correctly. And so what I want to come back to is the whole idea of a perfect environment to actually do an FMS test. You know, making sure you're fully hydrated, making sure, you know, as far as I know, I'm not FMS certified, but correct me if I'm wrong, but you start FMS cold directly. You walk in and you start the FMS, right? There's no warm up that you're supposed to do.
Yeah. And the other thing too is with the FMS, it takes a long time. Like if you do it from start to finish with everything, it takes what, Ben, like 45 minutes sometimes?
Yeah, at least sometimes an hour.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a long time. So to do that with every single patient or client, it's a lot. So, you know, how we've kind of adapted is we've kind of downscaled it to our core movements, you know, the movements that we feel that everybody should do, every person, every athlete. So we've kind of downscaled the whole FMS thing because it's sometimes it's unrealistic when you're busy.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what you said about, you know, doing some tests mixed in with the training, I think that makes a lot of sense too. I kind of pick and choose where I do actually train the person usually first before I do any type of assessment, you know, just to see where they're at, just basic strength training. Just go in and figure out what they're good at and what they can handle. And you can see right away, you know, where somebody can't squat or somebody can't execute a push-up without deviations in their shoulders and things like that. So then you might have to do some wall tests and things like that, overhead extension tests, just to see where they're at. But I do think it's good to get a little exercise in front of you to see what they're doing. Even just watching somebody walk across the room and then walk towards you, you're going to see where they're lining up.
Yeah,
all right. So go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to say, Mike, to Adam's point, yeah, I think sometimes you do have to scale it down. And, you know, that just comes to really understanding, like, what is that person coming for? And, you know, maybe certain parts of the assessment aren't going to be as important in the general scope of what their goals are and what they're looking to achieve. So, you know, again, to his point, you kind of have to like nail down what you think are the most important aspects of it, and then really try to hone in on those. And then, you know, maybe later you can come back to other things, but, you know, what are they there for? What are their goals? And what can you best do to support that? And sometimes it means maybe focusing on, you know, specific movement patterns that, you know, are going to have a larger effect on leading them to their goal. So.
All right, perfect. So if you guys have people that come in who've been lifting for a long time, or even maybe it's just occupational stress and they got some injuries going on, they got damage to their body. We'll just say from the standpoint of lifting weights, they come in and they have all kinds of problems because they've been lifting weights incorrectly for 30, 40 years, maybe less than that, maybe just 5, 10. Adam, you said CrossFitters working out 6, 7 days a week. So how do you offset the damage done to lifting and the effects of previous injuries when you start working with a client? We'll let Danielle start with that one.
Very slowly. Think about how long it takes you to adapt to a certain way. Like I take my golf swing for an example. I'm trying to get better at that. And I haven't been golfing for that long. So my husband's like, go get lessons now before you can't kick this bad habit that, you know, and I think that's just what we develop, whether it's nutrition, whether it's fitness, whether we develop a bad habit and we tend to go back to that. So my approach with helping people adjust to a certain style is not to smack them right in the face with all these new postures or it's just taking things little by little. So, I hear a lot of people who I don't squat anymore because it hurts my back. So I'm going to say, okay, well, let's take a look at your posture. And that goes with the functional screenings and things like that. But it might be a simple corrective exercise because they haven't been doing it correctly. Or if it's an injury, then, find out if they have done any PT for it, and refer to them maybe to some PT. I have worked with doctors and PTs in conjunction with what I'm doing, or chiropractors and what I'm doing. And so it is nice to develop a relationship with then the client's doctor or whatever that they're doing, so you can be on the same page ultimately. And that's where I start with that. It's super slow and try to get to, one thing at a time. It could be a couple different movement patterns that's preventing them from doing, a lift, or, they're jerking their body and they're not using their core and they're not stabilizing. Well, maybe they've never learned to use and stabilize their core. So that's where I would start if I, depending on what the exercise is.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll add one thing before I shoot on over to Adam. Sometimes I feel like you stumble across things by accident too, because as Ben definitely knows, I had an L3 and L4 major injury in football. And it prevented me from squatting heavy or deadlifting heavy for a very, very, very long time. Just now getting back up to my high school weights at the age of 36. But I stumbled across something yesterday, which we're always learning. I mean, if you take fitness or your profession seriously, you're always learning. But I just stumbled across something yesterday. I was doing hip thrusters. I was doing 180-pound hip thrusters, 3 sets of 15, and standing calf raises. That was the beginning of my workout. I went over and started doing squats. And for the first time in about 12 years, I was able to put 315 on the bar and execute 3 perfect reps. Nothing hurt. My knees, my joints, nothing hurt because I started with the posterior chain. And I've dabbled with that stuff in the past, but it's like, now you're looking at, last week I was doing 275 pounds and I was struggling with 5. And I just did a 50-pound jump, basically, 40-pound jump in 1 week just by changing the order of progression. And I think when you have somebody that has, like, my back hurts before I squat, well, why do you need to squat first? There's nothing that says anywhere that you must squat first in your workout. Sometimes I like having my clients squat at the end because it takes their ego out of it when the rest of their legs are already tore up. So maybe 145 pounds on the bar is all they need. So I think that goes into a lot of things with correctives as well. But Adam, we'll shoot it over to you with that question.
Yeah, so my approach is going to be very differently because of I guess, my background. So what Ben was alluding to before, with that each joint has basically a sole function. So it's called the joint-to-joint approach, or the joint-to-joint complex. And in order to understand that, you need to understand that each joint is either a stable joint or a mobile joint, right? So if your foot essentially is a stable joint, and your ankle is a mobile joint, and your knee is a stable joint, and your hip's a mobile joint, and it goes in that direction. So in order for the body to work optimally and efficiently, you need to have that basically mobile, stable joint all the way up. So let's just say you have somebody who, like a runner who's in a stress fracture, gets in a boot for 6 to 8 weeks. They get out of the boot and they want to go back to running again. Well, that ankle has been immobilized for a long time. So now essentially that ankle has become a stable joint. And so now you have your foot, your ankle, and your knee, which are all stable joints. And then they go run, they go lift, they go squat. They don't have the same ankle range of motion in one ankle compared to the other one. And then they develop these faulty movement patterns, these compensatory problems. And that's how pain happens. So people come to me for pain. So what I try to do is diagnose and find what we call the pain generator. So if somebody says to me, hey, I have pain with squatting, it's like, okay, well, when is it during the squat? Is it in the beginning? Is it the middle? Is it the end? Is it certain weight? Is it, is it with barbell? Is it with kettlebell? Is it air squat? So, you have to understand movement patterns as a whole, and then you have to understand kind of anatomy and physiology as well. So when you combine those two, you can look at the whole picture. You also, for me at least, I have to understand pain. So chronic pain is any pain that lasts longer than 2 weeks. So if somebody comes in with me with shoulder pain for 3 weeks, it is now chronic pain. That means the body has adapted to that pain and compensation. So now I have to kind of go back to thinking, okay, well, what potentially started that pain? What potentially started those different movement patterns? And I'm sure you guys have seen this too, where people go to do an overhead lift and they kind of do this, or they engage their trap or levator in order to lift up. Well, that's a faulty movement pattern. If you do that, let's say 10 times over a course of years and years and years each week, you're going to create all this tension and dysfunction and adhesions, and so that's kind of my approach. So it's different in the sense that I try to figure out what is causing their pain, and the body's this miraculous machine where it doesn't tell you that you're moving differently. It doesn't tell you that when you squat you move to one side, or when you do an overhead press one arm's going higher, or it just does it. It just says, I got to get from point A to point B. It may be kind of a roundabout, but I'm going to get you there. And then people have pain, and then they don't know where it came from. So basically, the when you do corrective exercise, you're doing it for the intention of whatever's causing that issue. So if you watch them squat and they deviate to one side, you have to figure out, is it tightness on one or is it weakness on the other, or maybe it's both. Maybe they have a cross pattern dysfunction. So it's a lot, right? But the more you do it, the more you see it, the better you can just kind of think through when you're with that client and that patient, and then it becomes easier, and then you just kind of go from there.
Mike, can I chime in on the original question here?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think one thing that is important to remember as fitness professionals is every single person that comes to you is coming with their own, history of exercise and injuries and just life experience. And we need to be respectful of that. We can't sit here and assume that we know more than about someone's body than themselves. Everyone has, their own injuries. So I think it's important to, that's why we screen, right? We're trying to kind of highlight some of these things, see, where pain exists. And, people know, like we were saying before, okay, like when I squat, my back hurts. So sometimes we need to dissect that and look at the why, and see if there's things we can do to improve that. But also, just knowing that sometimes you need to refer people to someone like Adam or a, orthopedic doctor to really, get to the heart of their issue, because we can do things to improve their fitness, and we can do exercise correctives, but sometimes, people just need just more intervention, something deeper than we can provide. So I think, good fitness professional knows when to refer their client to someone who can further help them. I had a woman that I used to work with who was dealing with really bad frozen shoulder. She was also really busy, had a lot going on in her life. And she basically told me it came down to, I can either go to physical therapy or I can see you. And I'd rather see you because I have all this weight to lose. And I kind of had to have that conversation. Like, listen, like, I understand what your health goals are, but until you fix, it was actually both shoulders, because, we're not going to be able to do the things in the training program that we need to do unless you get to the heart of this issue. So I kind of had to plead with her, like, listen, I don't want to lose you as a client, but if you're telling me it's A or B, then, go get the help that you need in physical therapy. And then when you're more healed, come back and see me. So I think that's a large part of it. And then I also think sometimes you just need to modify certain exercises. Like barbell back squatting might not be for you because of the compression it puts on your spine. And if you do have a lot of spinal injuries, it might just not be the best exercise selection for you. So maybe try goblet squatting and just holding, front loading the weight. If you look at, someone who I really follow and have certifications through, Mike Boyle, who's a real prominent figure in the strength and conditioning world. A lot of his programs, he really does very little barbell training. They do trap bar deadlifting, but a lot of it is just unilateral leg training, a lot of split squats, a lot of single leg deadlifts. And, sometimes if you look at what the cost of the exercise is versus the benefit, the potential for injury is very high when you're really loading up a barbell heavy. So we can almost get, equal or even greater benefit training unilaterally, like one leg at a time, doing something like a split squat, and get super strong that way. So I think sometimes you have to take like the dogma out of it and just, not think like this is the only way to get strong is to train with barbells and do heavy deadlifts and do heavy squats. Those are great exercises, but they might not be great for a specific individual. So you have to know, and that's where your programming expertise comes in, but you have to kind of know a person's injury history, what they're currently capable of, and where you're trying to get them. And, that's why exercise selection becomes so important in a program. Like, we need people to leave us, better than they were coming to us. We don't want to break them down further. So.
Hey, Ben, question on that female client that you talked about that was basically picking between you or PT. When you have clients, or Danielle and even Mike too, when you have clients that are, let's say, being treated by a healthcare professional, are you guys in touch with that healthcare professional? Because I think for that client specifically, you could have, for sure, she could have seen you and the PT, as long as you guys were communicating, saying, all right, PT, this is what I found, and I still think she should still see you, Ben, but I still think, that she should be doing XYZ. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not always. I definitely try to, with that specific individual, no. It was really just, she was super pressed for time. And, it just came down to the point where, yeah, what you said would obviously be the perfect.
Right. It would be ideal.
Yeah, but, with other people, definitely. And I think that's one of the things that the FMS has really tried to do, is kind of bridge that gap between physical therapy and, the fitness world, and try to at least give communicable language between trainers and physical therapists and sports chiropractors like yourself. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely other people I've training that were coming out of injuries. I've had the chance to whether talk over the phone or email exchange with their therapist, and just kind of talk about like, okay, this is where they're at in their program, and this is obviously all with the consent of the client. But yeah, like kind of seeing like, all right, like this is what we've been working on, should probably still avoid these things at this point in the recovery. Maybe in a few weeks you can try to add these things in. So I think if you have someone who's willing to communicate with you, I always try to connect with them and see, because your client is really who you're there to support. So if you can communicate with other people that are working with them and just try to be on the same page as much as you can, that's obviously the ideal way to go.
Yeah, and for me, I have a team of people I refer out to. But then again, it comes down to HIPAA laws and whether the client is willing to sign a piece of paper saying that I can communicate with their massage therapist, their orthopod, or the physical therapist. I have one particular person from each of those genres that I refer out to. So it works pretty well because I kind of have a reputation with some of my clients, like, hey, you referred me to my massage therapist, and they communicate, and like they actually tell their friends how that's so awesome because they get stretches from their orthopod, they get stretches from their massage therapist, their physical therapist, and me, and then we kind of cohese them together. It's probably not even a word, but bring it all together so they can kind of just do the right thing so they can continue moving forward. And I also was good. Go ahead, Danielle.
I was going to say I've worked with chiropractors or PTs or in conjunction, just reached out and just made sure that the exercises were, in line with what their goal and what the client's goal and our goal were from. And it tends to work out well. And then you have that establishment with the PT or the chiropractor or the doctor. And like I've gotten referrals from a chiropractic office. You want a trainer? All right, go to this trainer, because they feel comfortable and know, and I've worked with them and said, they're confident in sending their clients to me.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about something here where I hope it makes sense how I'm going to convey this. But when we meet somebody for the first time, it is the most complicated thing in our career. You need to literally identify their goals, identify their problems, identify where they think they want to go, and identify where you think they can go, all within that first hour. So I think, in sales school and marketing training and everything, they tell us we need to convey so much value that, they're going to throw their checkbook at us. But what I think we really need to do is convey whether someone needs a short-term solution or a long-term solution. So if you have somebody that comes in and is a mess, and like Ben said, they want to lose 50 pounds or something like that. Say they come in, they want to lose 50 pounds and their body's a mess. We need to tell them, hey, it might take us 4 months to get your body ready for the activity it's going to require for you to actually start burning the fat that you think you're capable of burning, because otherwise you're going to end up in the hospital because you're going to get hurt worse than you already are. So how do you guys go about explaining that to your people? This is not a question we were going to cover, but how do you go about explaining that to your customers when you say, hey, I'm going to need you for at least 2 years if you want to achieve this goal? Where a lot of people, I don't want to throw too many shots out there, but there's so many programs now that say like, hey, $7 a month, I'll write you a program, but they're writing that program for every single person that buys it. It's the same program, it's cookie cutter. So how do you convey that to someone that comes in, you need them for 2 years if they're going to achieve the result that they want? It's open to anybody.
Just be as realistic as possible. I think it's always important to be honest with them up front and not try to sell them on something that you know is going to be untrue. Like maybe telling them like, oh yeah, I can get you there in 3 months, when you know that's not true at all, even though you know that's probably what they want to hear. Because I think everyone, 95% of people that come to you like want those results like as immediate as possible, which, you know, in our society, that's what everyone wants, is instant results with everything. So I just think you have to be honest with them and tell them like, listen, you know, I hear you, I understand what you want to do, and I don't think it's unachievable, but like, let's talk about a realistic time frame here, and what are you willing to commit, you know, of your time, of your finances, and of, you know, probably, you know, maybe detriment to other parts of your life, because you're going to have to sacrifice time and energy into getting to where you want to go. So I think you just have to be really upfront with people and make them understand that. And really just kind of sell them on the fact that this is a long-term solution, and you got to be willing to play the long game here and make those small incremental changes. And anything that promises immediate, quick, easy results is probably phony and garbage.
So for me, so there's a joke that one of my mentors has told me, where he's been in his practice long enough that we can say this. And if somebody comes in with pain and they've had pain for 20 years, he tells them it's going to take them 20 years to get out of pain. It's, you know, but in reality, it's taken that long for them to get there. So there's two ways of looking at it. So if we're looking at it from like a strength training, right, or even a weight loss perspective, I'm sure everybody can agree it's very easy to gain weight versus to lose weight, right? I feel like losing weight is one of the most difficult things to do, because in theory, you almost have to be in a caloric deficit, because of the just that's how it is. What is it? 3,500 kcal equals 1 pound, right? Yeah. So if somebody, so a healthy weight loss is 1 to 1.5 pounds a week. So if somebody wants to lose 20 pounds in whatever time frame they have in their head, you gotta educate them and say, listen, healthy weight loss, 1 to 1.5 pounds per week. So that means that you need to be, in a way, a caloric deficit for 20 weeks if you want to lose 20 pounds. And that's excluding, you know, your Thanksgivings and your holidays and your barbecues and all that, you know, all that stuff. And you're not always going to be active every single day. So making them understand kind of the basics, and then they can be realistic. All right, so 20 pounds, I don't know, I would say probably about a year, I think would be a realistic goal if you're working with someone like you guys for 3, 4, 5 times a week, while also working on their nutritional and their supplements. I mean, that's a long time to lose the weight that they're looking for. But if you set those realistic goals with them, then it'll be so much better for you and them long term. If you say, oh, 20 pounds, 2 months, easy, done, they're not gonna do it, and then they're gonna look at you and go, well, you told me a few months. What happened? I've only lost 7 pounds. And are you not doing what you're supposed to be doing? So being realistic with people it's difficult, because you don't really know exactly how they're going to turn out, especially when that first meeting, you're learning about them, they're learning about you. But I think if you explain kind of the general aspect of how the body works and what you need to do, what they need to do in order to achieve that, I think they get it, and you don't really have to sell or market yourself, because your goals are their goals, and as long as it's 100% communication and everyone's on the same page, and you're working towards that goal, I think that's kind of how you convey that.
Yeah. And no matter if their goal and if you check their goals, and in reality, it might take a year. Also depending on how, like, you can tell if someone's super motivated and they're like, you tell me whatever I need to do and I'm going to do it. Like, when you have those people who are like, well, I don't want to give up this, I still want to do this, and like, you can kind of engage and then not play into it, but like support them in that way. You can't get disappointed in somebody if they're going to be like, I don't really want to cut this out. I might lose weight at this pace. I'm okay. And you need to let them know you will lose weight at a slower pace. And if they're okay with that and they're happy and they're not being able to, they're able to cut things what they want out and keep what they want in, then that should be a good result then for me working with the client, and the client should be satisfied and happy that I'm there to support them and not tell them, oh, no, you can't do this. Now, I do have people that say, I'll cut out whatever. This is where I want to go. They're very driven and determined, and they want it. So, if I'm training somebody for a show, which I am right now, they're about 6 weeks out, I'm going to tell them, you can't eat this. If you're going to look this way on stage, guess what? You can't have this right now. And that's what I'm there for, to support them. So it is very different, and depending on the client, what they need, emotionally, where they are, like stability wise. So if they're coming to me and I see that they're not, I don't know, maybe they're depressed or they're questioning, even if I know that they have a long road ahead of them, they need to be excited, and they need to have a short-term goal when they leave. You know what? Yes, you barely drink any water. At the end of this week, you're going to be drinking as much water as you need to sustain, and then that is their goal, and they need to achieve it, and they will achieve it because it's not overwhelming. And so it's such a different outcome for every single person, depending on their personality, and and as you're talking to them, you'll figure that out. And that's really important, though, to have that open communication. I don't like doing cookie cutter diets. I don't. I need to talk to you. I need to see you. I need to feel you out, because guess what? Like Adam said, you'll fail. There's no support. Like, yep, this is what you're going to do. So you're just going to fail. And then it falls back ultimately on me. I didn't do my job. So I don't like I need to, talk to the person and really find out a little bit more what's going on. And give that person to a reality check in their expectations. I talked to, how long did it take you to put on the extra 20 pounds that you want to take off? A year, 2 years. Okay, well, is it reasonable to maybe say, maybe we won't take 2 years to take it off, but is it reasonable to bring it in instead of having it, I want to lose 20 pounds in 2 months? So.
Do you guys all do nutrition, like with your clients?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I don't have any like certifications in nutrition. I've been studying nutrition on my own for, I don't even know, 15 some years. So the way I talk about nutrition with people is, so I'm big on habit formation. So Mike, I know you're a big avid reader, but any habit book I read, I dive into. So how I start nutritional kind of conversations with patients is, one, I try to get them to write a weekly average food journal. So don't change anything. Write down what you're eating per day for the whole week, and see what you're consuming. Because people, I'm sure you've asked them, how's your diet? Oh, it's great. It's perfect. Yeah. I have salads. I have this, I have that. And everyone's diet is good, but in reality, it's really not. So then you see what they eat for a week, and then you sit down with them and you go over a few things. But the way I approach it is, I try to change one thing, small wins. Right. So instead of just going from, hey, I have I eat a cheeseburger or pizza for lunch every single day, and I have this for dinner, and just going completely like vegetables and fruits and whole grains and everything. I try to start with one thing, and I try to start in the morning. So kind of win the morning, win the day. Most people drink coffee in the morning. What do they put in their coffee? Cream, milk, sugar, right? So, all right, what about taking out sugar and putting in honey or agave or no sugar? And people are like, what? I can't drink coffee without sugar. But sugar is quite terrible for you, and it creates cortisol and adipose tissue. And so that's kind of my approach. I don't know if your guys' approach is a little bit different, or similar, but I try to start with one thing, and then you build on that, and then you build on that momentum. All right, so now you're drinking coffee with just, let's say, creamer but no sugar. Perfect. Now let's add like an oat milk, or instead of having a bagel with cream cheese, maybe let's add some oatmeal and fruit. And then over time we can change other aspects, because it's really about conscious decisions. People choose what they want to eat. When you go to a restaurant, there's tons of options, but people choose fried foods or multiple desserts and sodas and that sort of thing. So it's purely a conscious effort. So if you can try to change that thought processing and that habit, where, hey, if you have pizza, you need to have soda. Well, not necessarily. You can still have water with pizza. I know it doesn't taste as great, but or have soda, but have something maybe a little bit different, that sort of thing. So I wanted to kind of throw that out as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important, Adam. You can't take someone from eating fast food on the regular to eating a completely clean whole foods diet, whole food diet in like a month, or it just takes a long time. So I think small impactful changes definitely play into the factor. That's definitely what I try to do. And I think going back to the whole scheme of this conversation and this topic that Mike brought up, you really, I think at the root of it, you have to understand exactly what a person's schedule is. Like, what does their day-to-day look like? What do their weeks look like in and out? And then you can kind of start to understand that individual a little more, and what the challenges that they face in their life are, and their schedule and everything. And then you can kind of start to make suggestions like, all right, I know you're jammed on Wednesday, but I see in your schedule you have a small little gap here. Maybe we can get you, to go out and find a healthier lunch option during this time. So I think scheduling is a huge part of it, just like understanding all of the commitments that people have in their life and their responsibilities, whether work, family, all those things that comprise our lives. That just goes back to that individualization approach, like really understanding that person and all of the things in their life that they have to deal with, and then how do we fit what they want to accomplish into that. And it goes back to being realistic with them. And I think at the heart of it is getting that individual to understand that to achieve any kind of goal, whether it's health and fitness related, it's going to take sacrifice. And it really comes down to, what are you willing to sacrifice? I think people's social lives often dictate a lot of the reasons why they might not be achieving certain things, because, like you were saying earlier, you have that Thanksgiving, fine, okay, we all know we're going to overeat that day, but then maybe you have like the next 3 weeks holiday parties lined up, and then it's this person's birthday, and then all of a sudden, like, the weeks add up, the months add up, and you've had all these events. So you kind of have to get people to pick and choose, like, okay, like, if you have this event, maybe try to, really limit yourself to like these things. And I think that becomes an important part of it, just as much as what you're prescribing to them, just kind of understanding like, all right, this person has a lot of different things on their calendar. How do I kind of help them pick and choose, like, where they're going to kind of, maybe be able to allow themselves to eat a little more here and then have to clamp down the next week. So I think the ebb and flow of the person's life and their schedule really comes into play as well.
Yeah, I'm a certified nutritionist, and one of the main things is behavior change from the first meeting. All right, what can we change? The other thing, which, just as we're here to guide and always provide solutions and just be their number one supporter through everything. But finding what obstacle, and that has been such a great conversation piece in knowing where to support, because the person usually says, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want. but they're coming to you with their wants, but what has prevented them from getting there? For it could be years, it could be just recently. So one of the things that I always talk to my clients about, we sit down and we go through some of the behavior changes, and then what's causing you? What's an obstacle? I know that you want to go here, but what's an obstacle? Is it your schedule? Is it, do you have support? Do you have people? So oddly enough, I've kind of seen it all. And there's people that say, I honestly don't have support at home. And it's their spouse doesn't want them to eat healthy, or it's taking away from, but it's just like, that's a huge obstacle when you don't feel like you have the support, or you don't cook for yourself. So you have to eat whatever is put in front of you. And that's one of the biggest obstacles that, unfortunately, I can't go in there and make a phone call to change, but that's something that we need to have a further conversation on. All right, how do we change that behavior, and how are you able to put more control into the food that's going into your mouth? So really, really good stuff on nutrition. I could talk days.
I was also going to say, Adam, that non-professional opinions are very difficult to overcome with clients, because they're coming in, they have 5 friends that are telling them, hey, I lost 27 pounds last month.
Yeah.
So we have to have that like $2 nutritional conversation with them, saying like, hey, yes, keto works, but you have to understand where the role glycogen plays in your body. And just simply having that conversation with the client where, hey, if you're a 300-pound man, you could be holding 47 pounds of glycogen right now. So you cut your carbs, you drop 27 pounds quite rapidly if you can actually do it. If you can stick to eating nothing but fats and proteins and stay well hydrated. That doesn't mean that you lost 20 pounds of body fat. It means you lost 20 pounds of glycogen, and then your energy levels are going to go in the shitter. So those conversations are what we have to have with people too, is because everybody wants to listen to Aunt Susie, who's like, I lost 57 pounds in the last 3 months. And it's like, well, Aunt Susie, you look like shit. Like, yeah, you lost 57 pounds, but like, you look like you're going to die because you're so tired, you know?
Aunt Susie.
Yeah, freaking Aunt Susie. But yeah, I mean, we got to do that as professionals. We got to be debunking stuff all along the way. And we got to be saying, hey, like, got to play the long game, One small sustainable habit. That's the consensus among the 3 of you, one little habit at a time. So Ben, what's your certification? I forget what it's called. Precision?
Yeah, Precision Nutrition is the organization I'm certified through.
So when you're dealing with people coming in pre and post workout nutrition, what's a good starting point? Just take home advice for somebody listening to this. We'll let you be the only one that answers this so we can keep moving here.
Yeah, I think just understanding what the exercise that they're going to do is going to be. Obviously, your pre and post workout nutrition is going to be differently if you're just doing like a quick half-hour strength training session, as opposed to doing like some kind of like multiple hour endurance endeavor. So I think coming into it, just having, like in the few hours before, some kind of like complex carbohydrate, just to kind of give you some energy that, your body can start to break down, that you're going to have available energy for the workout. And then after the workout, especially if it's strength training or something where you've really pushed yourself hard and broken down a lot of muscle tissue, just a good protein carbohydrate mixture, whether that's a shake, whether that's a meal, it's definitely ideal to get in with that, get into your body within that first hour to kind of maximize that metabolic window that you have, where your body has just depleted all this glycogen in your muscles, kind of like you were just talking about. When we work out, we deplete the glycogen stores that are in their muscle. And for those of you who don't know, glycogen is just the stored form of carbohydrate. It's basically the energy for your muscle cells. So we deplete it during the workout. So I think most people are aware that after workout, you want to get protein, because that's how we help rebuild muscle tissue. We need protein to get into the tissue. Carbohydrates are equally as important, because we need to, especially if we're going to be working out multiple days in a row, we need to replenish those glycogen stores. They're the fuel for our muscles. So if we don't replenish that, we're just not going to recover as well. We're not going to have as much energy when we go into our workout the next day. So, just getting a good like carbohydrate protein blend, after a workout is definitely ideal. like a 3 to 4 to 1 carbohydrate to protein ratio, depending, on what the activity is and, how long you've been working out. So.
Awesome. All right. So 95% of the population does not ever set foot in the gym. And out of the 5% that do, only 3% do the recommended minimum amounts of exercise required per week. So this is a little off topic as well, but I want to take all four of us. Let's assume there's 100 people that are going to watch this and actually watch the whole thing through. And 90 of them are currently not working out at all. Maybe COVID hit them real hard. Maybe they gained some weight. Let's motivate them, tell them why they should get started, tell them why it's beneficial, and tell them why that you think exercise is the way. Just something real quick from each of you, and then we'll kind of start wrapping it up here.
Longevity. I mean, yeah, I would say just longevity. I personally, I have a 3-week-old newborn son, and so my goals going forward for my entire life is to watch him grow. So I want to live as long as I can to see him and hopefully his kids and maybe even their kids. So for me, the main reason that I think everybody should pursue health and fitness and good nutrition just for their lives is longevity.
Yeah, I think, you kind of stole the words out of my mouth, Adam. I just think, we all have things we enjoy in our lives, and we want to be able to enjoy and maximize those things, especially if they're physical endeavors, as long as we possibly can. So your health and your fitness is just that key to your longevity, just making sure that, you're free of any chronic diseases, that, your body is just able and functional to do the things you want to do, so you can enjoy that time with your loved ones and watch your children grow and enjoy all these things with them. That's my motivation. I don't have children, but I have a lot of active pursuits that I'm passionate about. I want to be able to do those things as long as I can. So a lot of the motivation with my personal health and my personal workouts is just things to supplement that are going to allow me to, be able to continually do these things as long as I possibly can. So yeah, just, and I would say if you're someone who's not working out a lot right now, not exercising, find things you like. You might not necessarily have to step foot into a gym right away. Just go out and walk, go out and, if you enjoy bike riding, get a bike and go out, find things that will get you up off the couch that you enjoy. I think that's a great starting point. And then you can kind of, delve down from there. But just for getting yourself up and getting out, just try to do things you like that are enjoyable to you and that are also going to, keep you active.
And life happens. Things are going to happen. Why not be prepared and be able to bounce right back? It's just very simply put, fighting off illnesses, sickness, getting injured, just being able to have that motivation already to recover. Just kind of feel the best possible. Why would you want to live if someone said to you right now, and they did an analysis and said, you're living about 60% of your potential. And you're thinking, oh, this is pretty good. Why wouldn't you want to live and feel at 90 or 100%? And just kind of taking that and seeing, oh my gosh, this is what I was missing, or this is what I could potentially feel. And then just not living in fear. I'm afraid to go outside because of my health. I'm afraid to go up the stairs because of fear of falling. So a lot of this is you're doing it for a preventative reason. You're doing it just to live to your full potential, and of course longevity. And it's never too late to start. I've trained and had people say, I'm in the best shape of my life, and they're in their 50s and 60s. And they're like, I've never even started working out until I was in my 40s. So, age does not matter when you start.
The one thing I was going to add on to what Danielle just said is, look at the past year and a half, 2 years now with this COVID epidemic we've been working with. kind of came out of nowhere, kind of swept the rug out from under all of our feet. But if you were an individual who was exercising, who was conscious about your health, it just put you in that much better of a position to, you know, if you did contract this disease, be able to make a full and complete recovery from it. I mean, who were the people that were predominantly seeing dying in ICU units and everything? It's typically people that either have some kind of health complication or obese. And this is not any way to shame people or, you know, like fat shaming. Like I don't believe in any of that stuff. But at the same point, like we really have to like tell people to take a call to action, like take charge of your health. Because when something like this does happen again, which it most likely will, don't you want to be more prepared, and don't you want to have a stronger immune system and be healthier going into it? So that way, you know, yeah, masks are great, vaccinations, you know, I don't want to hop into to that drama, but like I think at the end of the day, like really the best thing you can do from a simple standpoint is just take care of your health and everything, and just kind of bulletproof yourself for whatever, you know, type of pandemic or other potential health hazards are going to come your way.
Yeah, and I'll finish with health is the one thing you have absolute control over. Healthy people are generally happy people. They're free from disease. They're free from depression. Usually they have a lot more of a leg up than everybody else. And here's where I'll take my stance here for a second is every single day, we got so much garbage getting jammed down our throat by the news, by social media and things like that. It's like, sometimes you feel like you have no control of what's happening. You know, you have those talking heads out there telling you, here's our laws, here's what's happening, here's what's going on. You have control of your health. You have the opportunity to get out that door and walk every day. You have the opportunity to eat healthy fruits and vegetables and lean meats. You have the opportunity to reach out to great people that are on this call to help you get started. Health is your responsibility. It is the biggest thing that's going to create wealth in your life, because if you wake up and you're healthy, you have the opportunity to do anything. Think about it. If you're an 80-year-old and you have $20 million, but you can't get out of the chair in the morning, what does that $80 million do for you? Nothing. You don't have a high quality of life. You could be 80 years old and you have $100,000 in the bank, but guess what? You can enjoy your wife, who you've been married to for 50 years. You go out, you take that walk every morning, you listen to the birds, you have a nice lunch. That's wealth. You know, it doesn't matter. Money goes away, and money doesn't mean shit if you're not in good health. So that's my little soapbox. But where do we find you guys? And just real quick, where do they find you? And how do you want them to connect with you? Adam, you can start, and then we'll go Danielle, Ben, and we'll close it out.
Yeah, I mean, our website's pretty simple. It's themoveclinic.com. It's our, like, all of our social media handles. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm here. I'm open to any questions anybody has. You don't necessarily need to actually come in like in the office for me to help. So my office is a little bit far from where you guys are. So, you know, if there's someone out in Wild Missing Sinking Spring that doesn't really feel like driving 45 minutes to an hour to see me, I can still help them from afar, whether that's provide them with somebody in the area or just answer some basic questions for them. So that's how I can help. At, you know, any way I can help, I'd love to. So thank you.
You can find me. Sorry, I didn't know.
No, go
I
ahead,
forgot the
Danielle.
order.
Ladies first.
Sorry, Ben. On my website, bdannyfit.com, or my Instagram, I'm Dani Fit, or Facebook, Dani Fit. You see a theme here. I also train out of Why Missing Fitness and Training in Exeter. Fitness and training, both locations. I do fitness, I do personal training, and I also do nutrition assessments.
So my business is Intuitive Roots. So my website is intuitiveroots.com. Just have some good general information on there, just about everything that I pretty much do and bring to the table. Instagram, it's just intuitive_roots. And, you know, I just posted a bunch of new stuff in the link tree on my Instagram, and then on Facebook is just Intuitive Roots. And like Adam said, feel free to reach out to me. You can find my contact info at any of those sources. And even if you're not going to become a paying customer, I'm always willing to listen and try to help where I can, even if it's just to provide some simple, quick advice. So yeah, thanks, Mike. Appreciate this.
And you guys can all find me at formalfitnesstraining.com, at Formal Fitness Training on all social media and YouTube channels. Very much the same. I'm here for anybody who has any questions. And I just want to put this out there that I've been in the fitness industry for 15 years. And I'll tell you what, 98% of the people who do this do it because they care about you and they want you to succeed. And you are the person who is listening to this. And you need to, reach out to somebody who you resonate with and just get a little help. You don't necessarily need to train with somebody forever, but even if it's for a couple months, or even just having a couple conversations to get yourself inspired, I think it'll be a game changer for you. And just know that we're here to help you despite the challenges you may be facing. So I thank the three people that are here, Adam, Ben, Danielle. I really appreciate you guys hopping on. I appreciate your friendship, and I look forward to doing more things like this down the road.
All right,
See you next time.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Take care,
Yeah.
guys. You too.
Bye.